An archaeologist decides to take his children to a distant island that no one is allowed to visit or even approach. He wants to give them a fun trip and at the same time uncover a legendary treasure that dates back thousands of years. But the journey quickly turns into a nightmare after they encounter a terrifying creature responsible for the deaths of thousands of people. The movie begins with a group of Viking warriors accompanied by their king and his daughter. She stands there terrified, telling her father they need to retreat immediately because what they're doing could get them killed at any moment. Her father ignores her warnings and orders his warriors to prepare. They bring a sheep and tie it in the middle of the lake to use it as bait to lure whatever lives beneath the water. Suddenly, a creature rises from the lake and attacks them. Thousands of years pass, and we move to the present day. We meet Sigurd, an archaeologist rushing to get dressed because he has an important meeting at the museum. He barely has time for his children, Tindai and Brage, and they're upset with him for that. He arrives at the meeting where he presents the investors with his latest discoveries. He explains the story of the Wisberg ship, which once belonged to the Vikings, and tries to convince them to fund his project so he can continue his research and uncover the truth about that ancient people. But the investors aren't convinced. So he takes them to another room to show them the artifacts he found near the ship, including a strange-looking carved serpent's head. Still, the investors refuse to fund his work and walk away, calling everything he said pointless. Even the museum director tells him there's no solid evidence that the Vikings ever existed in the region and decides to shut down his project. Sigurd carries a notebook that once belonged to his wife, filled with her notes on Viking history. While reading it in the car, he remembers he's late to pick up his kids from school, so he rushes there and apologizes to them. Later that night, Tindai is extremely upset, and her brother Brage tells their father she's angry because he didn't attend her graduation ceremony. Tindai tells him she wants to spend the vacation at the Mediterranean Sea, but he refuses and says he'll take his boat and spend a few days in the city before coming back. She gets upset and walks away, but he follows her, apologizes, and promises he'll do whatever she wants. He tells her they'll go to the beach for vacation just like she asked. Moments later, the doorbell rings. Sigurd opens it to find his friend Alan, who says he brought something important that will help him with his research. Alan pulls out a large stone covered with symbols and inscriptions forming a secret code. Strangely, one of the symbols matches an artifact they had discovered earlier. To decode the symbols, they return to the museum to retrieve that artifact. They sneak inside, take it, and rush back home. Once they place the artifact on top of the symbol, it fits perfectly, and they manage to break the code. They discover it describes a 3-day Viking expedition to a remote island near a lake called Odin's Eye. They gather all their maps and pinpoint the exact location. They believe the Vikings hid great treasures there, and if they travel to the island, they might find them. But Sigurd hesitates because he promised his kids a vacation at the beach. Alan convinces him to go, and Sigurd finally agrees. He then goes home and tries to convince her to spend their vacation on the island instead. She refuses at first, but after he insists, she agrees on one condition: he buys her a new computer. He agrees and promises to get her everything she wants once they return from the trip. They pack their things and leave immediately. When they arrive, they meet Elizabeth, their guide. They show her the maps and explain that the Vikings supposedly hid treasures in the area, and they're heading to the lake to uncover the truth. They also meet Leif, who acts as their personal guard and knows how to get them to the exact location. After a long journey through the forest, they reach a metal fence separating them from the island and the lake. A warning sign says no one is allowed to cross because the area is extremely dangerous. But they decide to continue anyway. They cut through the wire fence and enter the restricted zone, unwilling to abandon their mission. They keep walking through the forest for hours until they come across destroyed military armored vehicles, which terrifies the children. Still, they move on. After an exhausting trip, they finally reach the lake that separates them from the treasure island. In the middle of the lake, they see the place marked on the stone, the spot called Odin's Eye. Realizing they are exactly where they need to be, they build a makeshift raft from tree branches, climb aboard, cross the lake, and reach the island. They use metal detectors and treasure-finding devices, hoping to discover something, but all they find are empty bullet casings. Leif grabs Sigurd's notebook without permission, flips through it, and tells him, "I want to know the full truth. Why are we really here?" Sigurd replies, "We're here to uncover what happened to the Vikings thousands of years ago." He then takes the journal from him, while Tindire leaves them alone and walks deeper into the forest. Every few moments she hears a whisper coming from the water, and whenever she turns around, she finds nothing there. She continues walking normally until she finally reaches a destroyed military vehicle. She manages to open it and climb inside, finding a lot of equipment scattered everywhere. She wonders how the soldiers made it to this place, and what exactly happened to them, and why they suddenly abandoned everything and left. He tells her that they must have encountered something on the island, panicked, and fled, leaving all their gear behind. At that moment, Brage discovers a cave inside the mountain. He goes in and calls for his father. When his father arrives, he realizes the cave is extremely deep and believes they're going to find many incredible things inside. He's thrilled, thinking this could be the greatest discovery of his life. Everyone begins climbing down into the cave one by one. They start exploring the area, hoping to find the treasures they've been searching for. Suddenly, Sigurd finds a Viking warrior's helmet. He's ecstatic, because it's strong evidence that supports his theory about the existence of this ancient people. The whole group is overwhelmed with excitement. It's a major discovery for them. Meanwhile, Brage finds a huge egg underwater. He takes it, puts it in his backpack, and forgets to tell anyone about it. The rest of the team finds many artifacts inside the cave, placing them in bags to take back to the museum. When Leif learns that they plan to bring the artifacts to the museum, he becomes furious because he wanted to take them himself and sell them for a lot of money. He demands his share, but they tell him the artifacts belong in the museum and that none of them have the right to take anything. They're archaeologists. They can't violate their principles. Enraged, Leif decides to take everything by force and sell it for a huge profit. He pulls out his weapon, threatens them, forces them to put all the artifacts into a bag, grabs it, and rushes out of the cave. He then throws their ropes down the hole to keep them trapped inside before escaping. After that, he boards the raft they built from tree branches and leaves. Back inside the cave, the team finds a massive number of human skulls. Meanwhile, Leif is walking through the water when he hears a strange noise coming from beneath the lake. He can't pinpoint the source, but suddenly, a creature attacks him, kills him, and vanishes. The group inside the cave desperately tries to find a way out. Elizabeth attempts to climb the rocky wall to help them escape. She finally reaches the top, throws down the ropes, and everyone manages to climb out safely. When they decide to head back, they find the raft missing, and Leif is nowhere to be found. They decide to spend the night on the island and search the next day for a way to cross the lake. Tindire and her younger brother Brage go inside an armored military vehicle to sleep. Meanwhile, Sigurd flips through the journal, hoping to find any clue that might help them escape the island. Alan opens one of the skulls they found in the cave and discovers a massive fawn inside, a fawn that clearly belongs to a predator, though he has no idea what kind, because it's unbelievably large and strangely shaped. As for the egg Brage found and put in his bag, it begins to move, its shell cracking as a strange creature emerges from inside. Everyone is asleep when suddenly they wake up to loud noises and banging around them. They panic, not knowing where the sound is coming from. Brage checks his bag and realizes the egg is gone. The creature has hatched. He sees it and offers it some food, revealing that it's a small snake. Before it attacks him, he screams at the top of his lungs. Elizabeth wakes up immediately and traps the snake inside the bag. They decide to return to the cave to figure out what kind of creature hatched from the egg. After searching the cave for a long time, they reach an area filled with skulls and bones of people who died in a gruesome way. They're horrified. Sigurd opens the journal and finds a drawing of a massive serpent mentioned in Viking legends. He becomes convinced the creature is real and is responsible for killing all the people found on the island. They notice something in the water, and when they pull it out, they find the body of a soldier who died the same way the Vikings did, confirming that the monstrous serpent has been alive for thousands of years. Suddenly, the nightmare becomes real. They hear the terrifying sound of a huge creature approaching. They run and hide behind a rock. From there, they see an enormous snake moving through the cave. They're shocked and paralyzed with fear, unsure of what to do next. Sigurd panics for his children's safety and runs out of the cave to save them before the monster reaches them. At that moment, the small snake trapped inside the bag makes a sound that the giant serpent in the water hears. There's a rope tied to the military vehicle the kids are in, and the massive serpent pulls it, trying to drag the vehicle into the lake. The others try to escape before it sinks, but the door jams and they can't open it. They scream as loudly as they can for Sigurd and Alan, but the vehicle crashes into a tree and gets stuck. The serpent tries again to drag it back into the water. Sigurd and Alan arrive and desperately try to open the door, but they can't. The snake pulls harder, trying to drown them. After several frantic attempts, they finally manage to open the door and escape. Sigurd grabs Brage just in time before the vehicle falls into the water, carrying the bag with the small serpent inside. And after that, the car sinks into the water, and everyone is terrified and panicking, with no idea what this giant creature is. Sigurd grabs his son in his arms because the boy is crying and extremely scared. They decide they have to get off the island no matter what, but unfortunately they have nothing that can help them cross the lake to the other side. So Alan goes and brings a very long rope, a large hook, and a rifle he finds inside an old military vehicle. He also finds the bag that contains the baby snake. When he opens it, he sees the little snake inside. He hesitates about taking it or not, but in the end he decides to keep it, and puts it inside his own bag. Elizabeth loads the rifle with the hook and fires it toward the opposite side, where it catches onto a tree. This rope becomes their only way to cross to the other side, because if they walk in the water, the giant serpent will come out and kill them all. Alan decides to go first. They tie him to the rope, and he makes it across safely. Then they tie the little boy so he can cross as well, and he reaches the other side without any problems. After him, his sister Tundra crosses too, and they all make it safely. Then it's Sigurd's turn. He ties himself in, but halfway across something goes wrong with the hook, and he almost falls into the water. Elizabeth rushes to save him before he drops into the lake. At that moment, the giant serpent rises out of the water, and they see it for the first time in their lives. It's enormous. It attacks them and snaps the rope, sending them all into the water. Right before it kills them, Alan shoots at the creature, causing it to retreat. Sigurd gets out of the water quickly while the serpent disappears back into the lake. No one knows where it went. They keep walking through the forest, but they hear the serpent coming closer. They find an underground tunnel and rush inside, closing the door fast. But the serpent doesn't stop. It slams into the door trying to break in and kill them. They have no idea what to do or how to get out. They search for any exit, but find nothing. Still, they manage to get the power working inside the tunnel and sit down to rest and think. At that moment, Tundra picks up the journal and finds a picture of the giant serpent. She asks her father about the story written inside. He tells her it's about a Viking king who came to this island long ago with a massive army to kill the giant serpent, but the creatures slaughtered all of them. Only the king's daughter survived. He explains that the stone they found wasn't a map. It was a message written by the king's daughter, warning future generations not to come to the island and asking them to let the serpent live in peace, or it would kill anyone who disturbed it. Sigurd tells her he only now realizes what the message truly meant. They start a fire and continue searching the tunnel for a way out. Finally, they find a door deeper inside, and Alan manages to open it and step outside. When he asks them to hand him his bag, they suddenly hear a sound coming from inside it. Sigurd opens the bag and finds the baby snake. They finally realize the giant serpent is chasing them to get its offspring back. Sigurd warns Alan and tells him he needs to let the baby go, but Alan refuses. He claims it will be the ultimate proof of their adventure, a world-changing discovery that will make them famous. Before he hands them the bag, the giant serpent appears and kills him instantly. It destroys the tunnel and buries Sigurd under the rubble. The serpent enters the tunnel as Tundra and Braig run and hide. Braig keeps calling for his father, but his sister covers his mouth quickly because she knows if the serpent hears him, it will devour them. The creature passes right by them without noticing. After it moves away, they crawl out of their hiding spot, but the serpent spots them and starts chasing them. They scream, calling for their father. At that moment, Sigurd regains consciousness. He grabs the bag with the baby snake, and right before the giant serpent kills his children, he holds out the baby and gives it back. Because of that, the massive creature doesn't attack them, it leaves peacefully. Sigurd returns to his children, hugs them, and apologizes for everything that happened because of his mistakes. They wake Elizabeth up, leave the tunnel, and eventually return home. A long time passes, and Sigurd goes to the museum. He hands the director the stone with the Viking princess's message and tells him he's resigning so he can spend more time with his children. And that brings us to the end of our movie. We hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.